So, hi everyone. How you going today? I'm D'Angelo, creator of Lease Options Made Simple, and I want to welcome you to this free training on lease options, to this mind map. What I want to cover with you basically is an entire course on lease options. And today I'm going to walk you through the steps and the tools needed to put a lease option deal together. Now, I'm doing this because I get asked all the time what a lease option is. And the only way that I think to explain the process and to get someone to really understand it is to break it down into the steps that you need to take. So we're going to go through these today using a mind map. And if you want a copy, then I'll just put a link below the training video, and then you can just download a free copy of it as well. So that way you can have a look at it in your own time. Now, for some reason, people think that lease options are difficult, but it's the same with any investing strategy. It's all about keeping things clear and simple. It's all about clarity. And we talk a lot about clarity and keeping things simple in my program. And basically what we work through is just taking the first step and really understanding what that is before you take the next step. So step 1, then step 2, and then step 3. Not start at step 1 and be looking at step 4, 5, or 6. It's all about getting the first step done properly and then moving in to the next step. So what I see a lot is people trying to complicate things instead of just focusing on the simple and basic things in each step. So I want this to be a really great resource for you. Now, it's 100% free, and I'm not leaving out any of the steps. So I hope at the end of it, you really understand what lease options are and are interested in exploring it further. Okay, so let's get started. And what I'm going to do is I need to share my screen with you. So just let me do that and bring that right up. Okay. So this is our mind map. Let's jump into it. So what is a lease option? Let's bring that down, make that a little bit easier to see. What is a lease option? A lease option is simply a lease on a property with an option to buy that property at a later date. So 2 documents create a lease option, and they are your standard residential lease agreement, which details the terms of the lease, just like a normal lease agreement that you would enter into, which I'm sure everybody's seen before. And the second document is the option agreement. And this option agreement gives you the option to purchase that property that you are leasing at a later date, a date in the future, but at a price that you set today, that you agree on today. Now, we do a lease option with the seller, and then we usually turn it around and sublease the property again to someone else who will then live in that property and who wants to buy it at a later date. And this is called a sandwich lease option, and that's a particular strategy that I teach in my program. So why do people use lease options? Because they provide options. They provide benefits to sellers, benefits to investors and buyers. Now, a seller can sell a house that they had trouble selling before, or they can turn a negatively geared property positive, or they can move on a property that is vacant, or that they might be sick of being a landlord. Look, they might have to move for work and they don't want to leave the house empty. There are a lot of reasons why a seller will consider using a lease option. Now, investors, the benefits to investors, they can take control of a property for little to none of their own money. And by taking control of that property, they also take control of the cash flow of that property, which is just really, really powerful. And you consider that there's no banks involved, there's no serviceability checks, there's no hoops to jump through, there's no requirement for a huge deposit. An investor can just do these deals over and over and over, as many of them as they want to put the time into each month, and really build a huge business around this. The cash flow is amazing. Now, for buyers, the benefits are allowing them to realize their dream of actually owning a home. Now, these days, it is really hard and getting harder to borrow to buy a home, and it's because the deposits are so high. Serviceability checks are harder, the hoops are harder to jump through. A lot of people can't get a loan because they either have a little glitch on their credit check that might need a few years to drop off, or they just can't save enough to get the deposit together. So by jumping in as a tenant buyer into a rent to buy agreement, they can actually be putting the money away for their deposit over that 3 to 5 years. It's kind of like a lay-by, I guess, a try before you buy type thing. But they're in their own home during this whole period. So it's really exciting opportunity for everyone involved. Now, there are different ways to different ways to profit using a lease option. So let's go through these quickly. The first one is a renovate and flip. So you take control of the property with the lease option, you renovate it, and then you on-sell it. So the benefits for this are pretty obvious. You don't have to pay a stamp duty. You don't have to borrow through the bank to actually get hold of this property to then renovate it. So you're saving a lot of upfront cash, which you can actually just put into the property and flip it as quickly as possible. And then the second one is a lease option assignment. So we're looking at assigning the option, getting a lease option on a property from a seller, then assigning that option contract to another buyer for a fee. Now, that means you are out of the deal and you can move on to the next one. Now, this is also called wholesaling. Quite often you'll hear or see a lot of courses on the wholesaling where people will buy a property at below market value and just assign that contract really quickly to a cash buyer for a fee, $3,000, $5,000. Well, this is the same thing. You can assign the option to somebody else, an investor potentially, and just take a fee out of that. So then the third way is to just take control again with a lease option, but then just rent it out as a landlord. So basically, you're just holding the property as a landlord until it achieves capital growth. So when you're getting towards the end of your lease option period, it's time to exercise that option. If there's capital growth there, you can sell that property, profit with the capital growth, and move on to the next deal. So a lot of investors look at doing it that way because they can get control, build a huge portfolio, and wait for properties to grow in capital growth. Now, the fourth one is what I teach in my program, which is sandwich lease options. And basically with this strategy, you are taking a lease option on the property, then you're turning around and putting another lease option on the same property on better terms to someone else, and you keep the difference. So you have your agreement with the seller, and then you set a different agreement in place with your tenant buyer, which has a higher upfront option fee, higher ongoing option fee, higher purchase price, etc. Now, this strategy is my favorite strategy because it creates ongoing passive income with little to no money down. Now, as I've said, this is the strategy that I concentrate on in my program because I believe that once you have a regular cash flow, once you create that regular cash flow, then you are free to look at all the other strategies that are around, knowing that all of your outgoings are covered every month. So it gives you a lot of freedom to then move around into different areas, do different things with your life. Now, the last one is to charge a fee to connect a seller and a buyer. Now, basically, you're finding sellers who will lease option their property, and then you're marketing the property and bringing in a lease option tenant buyer or a buyer, an investor in that case. So you're charging a fee to connect the seller and the buyer. Now, note that you will need a real estate license to do this strategy because you are effectively acting as an agent, which is, you're doing exactly what a real estate agent does. You're taking a seller's property and you're finding a buyer for it. So you'll need a real estate license if you want to do that strategy. So I've just put a couple of links here, keep moving forward. This is a link to the webinar, which is a 35-minute webinar, which takes you through the 4 steps you need to put into place to create profit using property that you don't own. And the power of lease options, I've got a link there to a little video that I did a few weeks ago, which basically takes you through the power of lease options and how to create six-figure income per year and up to $1 million worth of equity and cash within 3 years, just by doing one lease option per month. So let's move on to mindset. Now, let's just talk quickly about the importance of mindset, because really mindset is everything. It doesn't matter how much you know, how much you spend, who is teaching you or mentoring you. If your head's not in the right place, then you're just not going to succeed at what you're trying to do. Now, you might get some success, here and there, but you'll never succeed at the level that you could if you have these blockages in front of you. You need to get in front of those blocks, and so you can go full steam ahead. Now, this mindset is something that you need to work at constantly. And I talk a lot about consistency in this business, particularly with marketing and following up with your leads. But working on your mindset every day is probably even more important. That you have to have the right attitude, and you have to be positive to get positive results. So start the day right, and the rest of the day will flow off the back of that. Now, there are a lot of great videos on YouTube, so I haven't included anything here. Google it and find something that resonates with you. And then, even better, sit down and work out a daily ritual, a morning ritual to start the day off right and get your head in the right place so that you can move forward. Now, this business really just comes down to 6 things: marketing for sellers, talking to sellers, making offers, following up, finding a buyer, and then getting paid. That is it. These are the steps. So it's really quite simple, right? Now, how quickly you do your first deal will come down to how quickly you implement these things, and then do them consistently. The keys to success with lease options is quite simply consistency, and it's nothing complicated in it at all. So let's get into the steps. So the first step is marketing for sellers. Now, put research up here. The first thing that I want you to understand is that you can only sell houses that people want to buy. Now, I have done a number of courses over the years where they recommend that you buy ugly houses, or, houses that no one else will buy because they need work and do handyman special and do all this different stuff. But, target houses that other people won't buy. And I just do not agree with that. Don't make it hard on yourself, particularly when you're starting out. Only look for deals on properties, nice properties in nice areas where families want to live, because otherwise you're going to get stuck with all these crappy houses that you can't find buyers for. Now, when I'm talking about research here, the first thing that you need to decide is if you want to just work local to yourself, like you just want to work in your town, your city, your state, or maybe you don't care and you'll do deals anywhere, interstate, international, anywhere. With lease options, you can do them in the US, UK, Spain, Italy, Greece. You're not restricted to just Australia and New Zealand. We can do them anywhere. But for this exercise, when you're first getting started, just really have a think about whether you want to be doing it in your own yard, your own backyard, or whether you're open to doing them wherever they are throughout Australia or New Zealand. So that's the first part of it. And once you decide that, there are different ways to research depending on what you want to focus on. I'm not going to go into too much detail about that today, because that's something that we cover a lot in our program when we first get started. But the important thing is that I want you to consider where you want to source your properties, like where you want to source your houses. So let's move on to campaigns here. So this is how you're going to generate your seller leads. So let's go through them together. I'll just move that over a little bit. So you want to always be networking. That's the first thing. You can join real estate groups. Real estate agents are great with networking, property managers, mortgage brokers, great for referrals, all of those. Other lease option investors or just investors, because sometimes you might find a deal that you can, move straight on to a cash buyer rather than look for a tenant buyer. And of course, property meetups. So, the coffee club type property meetups, they are a great way to network. We're moving on to online. Now, you can't talk about anything online without thinking about Gumtree, because I know I talk about Gumtree a lot. Gumtree is my favorite source of leads, seller leads. So when I talk about online, I'm talking about sites like Gumtree, or For Sale by Owner, and other private seller websites. Now, forsalebyowner.com.au is one. Look, there's a whole heap of them out there. They are a great place to get started finding seller leads. And then, of course, you can also look to set up your own website if you wanted to do that, just designed solely around generating leads for motivated sellers. Now, I like Investor Carrot, as they have a number of templates for you that you can use and just, change the words around to suit you. Now, I've included a link in my mind map, and it is an affiliate link. So I'm just letting you know that that's there. If you don't want to use that, just Google Investor Carrot. But either way, check that out because it's a great resource. Now, I might have to say, with websites, you don't need one when you're first starting out, but some people like to have them, so that's why I've just included that in there. Okay, moving along to direct mail, and this is where you're sending out letters to people. We use lists, and at the moment we're generating lists from court lists. So that's your mortgagee repossessions and your deceased estate type lists, and expired listings from real estates. So, the real estate agents will quite often get exclusive listing period for anywhere between 30 days and 90 days. So I like to look at anything over 120 days. I know that's got me out of any exclusivity period with a real estate agent. So you can pull those reports from Price Finder and RP Data and those type of places. And yeah, if they're interstate, especially, you can just send them a letter straight to the house or straight to the owner, and start the negotiation that way. Now, the next one along the line is a telephone. Of course, just pick up the phone. Again, it could be from a classified ad in the paper. It could be online classified like Gumtree. Just pick up the phone and have a conversation. Now, this one here, the last one, is vacant houses, private sellers. Now, in the US, they call that driving for dollars. Now, they're basically just properties that you are going to see when you're driving to work, when you're picking the kids up from school. You're just going to drive past these properties, and it's all about just keeping your eye out as to what is actually going on in your own neighbourhood. You'll pick up properties that way. Now, the big thing around this is really you just need to pick 2 to 3 ways to concentrate on and get started. You don't want to be doing everything straight away. Just pick 2 or 3 to concentrate on and get them out there. And make sure that you keep track of the people that you're contacting, because you don't want to be annoying them, calling them or emailing them repeatedly with the same first questions like, hey, hi, would you be interested in this, blah, blah, blah. You don't want to be contacting them over and over again. So make sure you put something in place to track these leads that you're sending, sending your emails or your letters out to. So now when you're calling them or emailing them or leaving a voicemail or texting them, you always ask the same thing. So you always say, hi, I saw your property and there's your address. Would you be interested in renting for a while and then selling? Now, if they're interested, then you go on and develop some rapport with the seller and see where that goes. Now, we talk a lot more about talking to sellers in the next step. And of course, the flow of questions and structure of the calls to sellers is all part of the training in my program. And we're not going to go into that here today, but just want you to know how you start off the conversation. Now, as I said, make sure that you are keeping track of all the seller leads and networking leads that you are going to be generating, because it won't take long for this list to grow. Now, if you're contacting just 10 sellers a day, then you're going to have 70 names by the end of the first week and 140 by the end of week 2, and around 300 by the end of your first month, and then you're going to have 600 at the end of month 2 and 900 at the end of month 3. And as you can see, at the end of your first 6 months, you'll have literally thousands of numbers in your database and a huge list of people that you need to be following up with. Now, you can put automated follow-up sequences into place with these thousands of leads, and suddenly you've got quite a big business. Now, I use Podio to manage my database, and my coaching clients are set up on Podio in their very first week, so that they can immediately start getting into the habit of collecting all their leads in the one place and starting to manage those tasks around those leads. Now, I covered this more in the tools section, so let's not get caught up here and we'll keep moving on. So now I want to look at marketing plan. So now we've talked about how to find sellers. It's time to talk about your goals. You need to create your own marketing plan, and this is really vital to your success at this. If you don't have a plan, then you're going to fail, and it really is that simple. You need to know where you're going. Now, when we look at budget here, I want you to consider it to be a budget about time and or money. It's not just money. People think budget, it's just all about dollars. I want you to consider it in terms of time as well, because if you have money, then you won't need as much time because you can pay for some marketing or for someone else to do this stuff for you. But if you don't have or don't want to spend the money, then you just need to spend some more of your time to generate your own leads. So that's what I'm talking about there. Now, I recommend that either way, money or time, you spend no less than 10 hours a week on this. And if you want quicker results, then obviously you need to put more time into it, and 20 hours a week would be perfect. Now, really, you should be spending a couple of hours a day building your list and talking to sellers. You will get your first deal done so much quicker this way. But I also want you to remember that it can take a few months for the deals to start flowing, and that's simply because people need to go through the process of trying other ways to sell their property or move on their property before they realize that it's not going to work their way, and maybe your option will work for them. And the best way, of course, to grow your business quicker and to get to your monthly income goal is to reinvest a percentage of your profit from each deal back into your marketing. Now, that's just smart business, of course. Now, the next part of this is knowing your numbers. Now, I did a little video in the group a little while ago about this. And some people will call these your KPIs, so your key performance indicators, but the whole idea around it is to show you how you are tracking and will help you work out your marketing plan moving forward. So you need to start tracking your numbers. So you need to know how many leads you need to get a deal done. It's quite simply that. How much does it cost you to get each lead in time or money? And what is your average profit per deal? You need to know these numbers. You need to know what marketing is bringing in the leads, and that's so that you can turn off what's not working, stop what isn't working, or increase what is. Stop what's not working and try something new. So let's have a look at the marketing projections spreadsheet here. There's a link here when you click it on your on your mind map when you download it, and it will take you to a spreadsheet. So let's just see if this works. Yay! Oh yes, there it is. Okay, so the blue cells are the ones that you need to be worrying about or thinking about. So let's just say that your average profit per deal is $5,000 and your monthly income goal is $10,000. So let's just change that to $10,000. So obviously you're going to need to be doing 2 deals a month. Now this is not taking into account your ongoing monthly income that you'll be receiving from the deals you've done before, your sandwich lease option deals. I'm just keeping this simple, so it's just average profit per deal. Upfront money is 5K, your income goal is 10, so you need to do 2 deals. So let's say that you need 55 leads per contract. And that means with a marketing response, say you're getting 15%, that means that you will need 367 leads per month. You will need to contact 367 sellers per month. So plug in all your numbers and you will get this monthly plan here, or pop out this monthly plan for you down here. And so you'll know that to get your 2 deals a month, you need to be contacting 24 new sellers per day, 169 per week, 733 per month. And as you get further into this, you will also be able to work out how many sellers you need to be talking to, how many offers you need to be making every day. And when you add back into the mix the follow-up that you're going to be doing as well, that's when you'll start to see real results, because it starts building all of this momentum. Because when you do a deal, you reinvest some money, you do some extra marketing, you get some extra leads, and suddenly your business is growing. Okay, so the score sheet, let's just go back to the mind map. The score sheet here naturally follows on from the plan. So we'll just wait for that to pop up. Here we go. And so, because now you know how many leads you need, and the score sheet is where you'll plan out what type of marketing you're going to do to get that number. So let's just have a quick look at this. And now this is why accountability is so important, and not just when you're starting out. Well, maybe particularly when you're starting out, because like when I'm working with my coaching clients, I can ask them, get them to pull out their plan and their score sheet, and we can go through their numbers every week. Now, these 2 spreadsheets that I've given you today is what we use in my coaching program. So every week we can look at these numbers together, and I can be saying to them, I can see how many sellers, they've set their goal for, but then what's their actual numbers? How many sellers did they contact this week? How many did they get to talk to? How many offers did they make? Knowing your numbers really is the key to success in this business. So obviously, I think it was 24 new sellers a day. So, if you've decided you're just going to do Gumtree, then you would just be putting Gumtree 24 per day. And that didn't work, so I'll have to have a play with that. Daily goal. Okay. So anyway, this will work. Now I can't. All right, now that's your example, and you will be plugging in per day. Nope, that didn't work. All right, I'll fix that before you get to download it. But these will start showing you, and all your numbers will pop up along the way. Okay. Now, the great thing also about knowing your numbers is that you can manage your business by them as well. So you do your first deal, and then you can get a VA to do your lead generation, because you'll know how many emails or texts or how many seller leads you need to touch each week. You can pay a VA to do it. So if you need to send out 24 emails a day or 24 texts a day, and it takes your VA now, the great thing about knowing your numbers is that you can manage your business by them as well. Do your first deal and then get a VA to do your lead generation. You know how many emails or how many texts you need to go out each day, so you can pay a VA to do it. So if you know that you need 20 to go out every day, and it takes your VA an hour to send out 10, then you need to, pay her for 2 hours per day to get those out, just to get your daily goal met each day. So that's all part of outsourcing as well. So these simple spreadsheets are the most important documents in your entire business, because you need to know your numbers. What marketing are you going to be doing every day? How many sellers are you talking to every day? How many offers are you making every day? Okay. So let's move on to the action steps for this first step. And really, it's just, if you wanted to get started today, choose 2 to 3 marketing strategies. Create a plan, go through the spreadsheets, play with your numbers, work out what you want to achieve, and create your plan, and then get started. Now, this stuff is not rocket science. It's simple, and it won't take you very long to plan it out, but you need to do this, and you need to find someone to be accountable to make you stick to it. Now, if you want that to be us, then we would love to talk with you. So book a call with us to talk about what you're doing, what you want to be doing, your future plans, and we'll see if we are a good fit to work together. So if you're interested in having a chat, just click this link here and it will take you to our scheduling link, and we can work out a convenient time to have a chat together. Okay, let's move on now to talking to sellers. This is always what everyone wants to know about. How do I talk to a seller, and how do I get them to do a deal with me? So let's just say your marketing is going well and the calls are going to start coming in. So I want you to have a think about how you are going to answer those calls. But the first thing I want you to think about is how you are going to feel about actually picking up the phone. And this covers whether you are calling the seller or whether you're actually answering a call from the seller. And people can have a real fear about this. And I know that I certainly did when I first started. So it's known as call reluctance. And the question is, how do you turn yourself into someone who loves talking on the phone and can explain your solution to the seller? Now, what I've learned over the years is that it all comes down to understanding that you are not selling anything. You're there to help the seller. You're not selling them anything. You're not a salesman. And I think one of the reasons behind call reluctance is fear. And that is the fear of being told no. It's the fear of being yelled at, sworn at, hung up on, told you're an idiot or stupid. Someone told me I was stupid the other day. How do you think I'm stupid? But no, I don't want to get into all of this here, and I've written a post about it before. So just follow this link here to a post that I did about this, because I wanted to bring it up and let you know that a lot of people have to deal with this. So I don't want you to stress about it. Now, my program has a complete module on talking to sellers, and we cover call structure and the questions to ask and how everything fits together. So this might be something that may be of interest to you, particularly if you are concerned about talking to sellers. Now, the first conversation with a seller can actually be initiated by a text message. And once you get a VA, they can actually be sending these text messages for you, and you will only have to talk to the people who are actually interested in talking to you. Now, this means that you are not actually cold calling either, which is nice, because these people they're warm leads then, because they're actually making the contact with you. So this means you're not wasting any time talking with those people who are not interested today. but they'll go into your follow-up list because they may be interested next month. Now, when the calls start coming in from your ads, it is ideal if they can be answered live. Now, I know that this is not possible in many cases, but this is always the ideal. Now, if you can't answer it yourself, or you don't want to answer it yourself, particularly when you're starting out and you're a little bit nervous because you don't know what to say, you have a couple of options. You can pay a virtual receptionist to answer the phone for you and take a message, or you can just set up a good voicemail message. But that does mean, of course, that you're going to have to follow up when you are free. And just make sure on that point that you don't wait too long. If they're calling you and you're getting a message or they're leaving a message, don't wait 3 or 4 days to get back to them. And you need to call them back the same day, or no later than the next day, because otherwise the interest in you will be gone. They'll forget who you are. They'll forget why they're calling you. It's not so exciting for them. And the other thing is they might just not answer the phone because they'll think you're not putting them first. So the main thing about this is for you to be accessible. And one other thing I just want to mention, with virtual receptionists, I have tried a number of different receptionists before, and I tried one in the Philippines and had nothing but trouble because of the accent. So if you're going to use VAs, they're fine for doing a lot of, like the overseas VAs are fine for doing all the database stuff and the lead generation and things like that, but make sure that the virtual receptionist you're using to answer your phone does not have a thick accent. And I don't mean to be rude or anything there, but I lost a number of deals in the beginning because the sellers just could not understand what my receptionist was saying to them. So just keep that in mind too. So, okay, now let's move on to here. Sizing up the seller. Now, when you're talking to the seller, that's part of what you need to do is size up the seller. Are they motivated now or later? So really, there's only just 2 types of leads. They're either motivated or they're now, or motivated later or not yet. So if they're motivated and they're a yes lead, then you want to go through our core questions and structure, get all the details that you can, understand what the problem is, and offer our solution, which of course is a lease option. Make that offer and then follow up personally. Now, if they are a no or a not yet, then we still want to get as many details as we can. So we can maybe still make an offer, or at least put them on our follow-up list to keep following them up every month. Now, you will know when you're talking with a motivated seller, because they have been looking for you and they will be so glad that you found them that they will tell you everything about themselves, everything about their situation, just everything. The important thing here is to keep your expert cap on and make sure that you get the information that you need to be able to go do your numbers to make them an offer. Now, if they're not ready today, that's fine too. Put them on your follow-up list. Sometimes an extra couple of months of mortgage payments or the bank deciding to make a move, that'll be enough for them to come back to you. So this is why it's so important to make sure that you are always following up, because someone who's not motivated today might be motivated 6 to 8 weeks down the track. Now, with my questions, I don't like long scripts. I don't like big, long scripts. So we talk about scripts, call scripts and all that type of thing. And I don't like them because they sound scripted. They just don't sound natural. So what I teach in my program is more about a call structure. And we just have a few quick questions based on that call structure, which is something that we cover in our program. But the main thing for you to know today is to just keep it simple. And another tip too is if you can detach yourself from the outcome, then the seller will be more interested in working with you. And I'm not quite sure how that works. It's a psychological thing, but if you're pushing them too hard to get all the questions. They can feel that you really, really, really need this deal or really, really, really want this deal. They will pull back. So you need to always maintain an expert position, is what I like to call it. You're asking the questions, you're not giving them a lot of information about how it works, because they don't need to know how it works. Most of them don't want to know how it works. They just want to know that you can fix their problem. So try not to get too involved. Always remember, this is your business and you're just asking a few questions to see if the seller might be interested in how you invest, but also to see if it's something that you're interested in investing in as well. That's it. That's all. And again, make sure you keep notes of all your calls for your CRM, because you need to write your notes in against each lead as well, so you can keep up to date with where things are at. Okay, so action steps. Set up a system to answer every call, even if it is a voicemail, and make sure then that every call is followed up in person. Now, the second step is to commit to talking with 3 sellers a day. And finally, in this step, I want to say that if you do have some fear around talking to sellers, then the only way to overcome it is to just talk to sellers. And I know that sounds bizarre, but so set yourself a goal of talking to 3 sellers a day. And after a couple of days, it won't seem so hard. And I'm sure that you will not be so anxious around this part of it. Now, again, if you want some help with all of this and you want to schedule a strategy session with us, click the link and book a call with me and my team. All right, let's move on to the next step, which is all about making offers and, again, doing the numbers on a deal. So not knowing your numbers, but doing the numbers on your deal. So once you get the hang of it, it should take you no more than 10 minutes to put an offer together. You'll probably be surprised to hear me say that you should be making offers on just about every property. And by that I mean just about every seller that you talk to should get an offer from you. Now, I like to tell the seller that I'm going to go away and do my numbers on it, and then I'll email them an offer to consider. And that way I can get their email address from them as well and stick that into my database for follow-up if they don't like my offer. Now, when you're doing your numbers on a property, the first thing is to pull up the address of the property online and just do, 3 to 5 property appraisals or valuations on it. See what you get and compare it with what the seller actually wants. So look at the free ones, on Domain you can get a property appraisal, and on thehouse.com.au will give you one as well. I use RP Data. Some of my coaching clients use Price Finder. Just have a look at a few of them and take an average of that, compare it with what your seller is asking for, and decide where you go from there. If he wants less, then offer him what he wants. If he wants more, then have a look a little further into it to see why he wants more. There might be some more questions you need to ask him. He might need more rather than want more. His house property might be worth less than what his loan is. So, there might be a few more questions you need to go into with him around that. So that just gives you another opportunity to get back into a conversation with him. Now, remember too that with a lease option, we are more interested in how long the seller will give us than the actual price. But sometimes sellers will still overvalue their property and you don't want to get caught out. So make sure you do a bit of a appraisal / valuation on it, just to get your head around what the property is actually worth for your offer. Now, I've also included in here a very basic calculator, spreadsheet calculator, for you to have a play with, and it's just specifically for lease options. So it's not going to have to download it. Have a play with it. The calculator will show you really quickly if the numbers are profitable on a deal and if you should be making an offer. So when you have a look at it, Let me just see if I can. Here we go. Okay, so this is what it looks like, and you will see these yellow boxes are the ones that you need to be worrying about. Okay, just the yellow cells. You put your numbers in there and it'll punch out profit. There's one for this one here specifically, actually, is for landlord. If you're just going to take a lease and decide to become a landlord and look for capital growth as your exit strategy. But then there's the rent to buy. So here, and yeah, again, just punch in your figures, what you think you can sell it for, and just have a play, and it will show you what, in a very, very quick analysis, if it's actually going to be cash flow positive for you and worth you doing a deal on it. Okay. So now let me just get out of there. Okay. Making offers. Okay. So now, if I'm talking to 5 sellers a day, I would expect to be making at least 3 offers a day. Now, some properties are just not going to work out. So, you don't need to waste your time on those, but the others, you need to send out an offer. Now, some of them you'll know straight away that they are, you're just not going to make an offer on them. You can do a quick look online and it's going to be an old crappy house, or it's in the middle of nowhere, and you just know that that's not an option for you guys to pursue, so you just wouldn't make an offer on it. But I want you to be looking at making at least 3 offers a day, 5 days a week. Now I want you to do the maths on this now. So if you're making 3 offers a day, 5 days a week, you're making 15 offers a week. So average it out to say 65 offers a month. And if you're doing this consistently, then you will have made about 130 by the end of the month 2, and then 200 offers by the end of the month 3. Now, if you have made 200 offers, do you think that you can do at least 1 deal in that month? Well, of course you can. Absolutely. If you're making 200 offers, then there's a deal in there for sure. You talk to sellers, you make them an offer, and it makes them think about their options. And you follow up with them and you close a deal. It's that simple. Now, this first offer will probably not be what you end up agreeing on, but it starts off the negotiation. It is a starting point. If the seller is not interested now, you just leave it with them. If the seller is interested, then they'll come back to you and you can start negotiating. What I don't want to see is you just sending an offer and leaving it there. Keep following up until they tell you to go away, until they tell you they've sold the house or they decide that they're ready to do a deal with you. And the other thing is, the seller will remember you when you follow up with them all the time, because you will be the only one who will have made them an offer in writing and continue to follow up. They'll remember you 3 months down the track when their situation changes and they are now motivated, and they will still have that offer from you sitting in their inbox. And the next month rolls around and you text them again or email them again, and suddenly they're calling you back saying, you know what, let's have a chat about this offer. Now, I always say that lease options are simple. Making money with lease options is simple, but it's not easy. And I say that because whilst the process is simple, people just don't do it. And this is because it requires motivation and discipline to get on the phone every day. It takes time to set up your processes and your systems, but none of them are hard. But this is not a get-rich-quick scheme where you press a button and the money just falls into your lap. You need to learn the steps. You need to understand the steps, and then you need to start taking the steps. Now, once you do that, you start making money, and then you can start outsourcing some of those steps so that you can focus on just the parts of putting the deals together, or the parts that you really enjoy doing, and outsource the rest. So that is the making offers step. Now, the action steps for here are quite simple, that you will use the calculator to do quick numbers on properties, and you will make offers on 3+ properties every day. So look, I have done a lot of courses and talked and worked with a lot of people who are doing or trying to do property or lease options. This step, making offers, this is the step that stops people. People get too bogged down with the making of an offer. They keep doing the numbers over and over. Now, I'm telling you that you don't need to spend hours putting numbers in your calculator. You don't need to spend hours researching the property on the internet. Just have a look at the property to make sure it's not a shack somewhere. Get a couple of valuations online, free ones, and then get those rough numbers into the calculator to know that it will work. If it looks like it'll work, get it into your offer and get it off to the seller. The deal can be tweaked later. So keep it simple, guys. If you're going to be making 3 offers a day, you can't be spending hours on each one. Streamline the process and move on to the next task. Okay, I think I have said that enough about that topic. Let's move on to following up. And I know I talk about this all the time, but let's hit it again. Okay, so you make an offer today, but the seller is not ready today or next week. But if you follow up in a month, then 2 months, and then 3 months, and so on, then something might change in the seller's life. So he gets transferred with work. He just decides he doesn't want to be a landlord anymore. He's sick of chasing the rent. He just gets tired of trying to sell it. Suddenly, he responds to you that he is ready. Now, when you think about it, if you see a house that you want to buy and you make an offer on it, do you follow up every month until it's sold? Most people will make an offer, and if it's refused, then they just move on. They start looking for something else. They don't keep at it, which is why getting into the habit of following up consistently it's a real game changer. Now, other offers might have been higher than yours, but they will be long gone and you will still be around. Nobody else will be around. It's just going to be you standing there following up each month. Your offer will likely be different to the other offers as well, but because you've shown that you want to work with the seller, over that period of time, particularly if you make a couple of the calls in person, you will have developed a bit of rapport. You're going to be top of mind because you've shown that you're a nice person. You're willing to work with them. You're patient. It's as easy as that. When they're ready, they'll get in contact with you. So again, being consistent is the key here. Now, following up, how to follow up, it doesn't have to be difficult. So don't make it harder than it needs to be. There are a few simple things that you can do. So let's just bring these out. Okay. You can send texts, you can email, you can send voicemail, you can ring someone. Now, phone calls are not going to be possible when you have thousands of leads to follow up on, but you can note it down in your CRM which ones you want to follow up with personally in this way. And that will pop up in your daily tasks to do it in person. Now, when I'm talking about text messages, you can use companies that send bulk text messages so that once a month they all go out at the same time, and it's from a phone number that you choose, so it's all coming from you. Now, with an email, it is the same. Just choose a basic autoresponder like MailChimp. You write a simple message and you set it up to go out once a month. That's all you have to do with email. Sellers will receive your email until they unsubscribe. They will call you and tell you to remove them from your list, or you do a deal with them. So email is quite simple. You can also do voicemail, And there is a platform now here in Australia. It's direct. Oh, it's direct. It should be direct to voicemail.com or something. I'm not quite sure. Straight to voicemail.com.au. So I'll have to check that. I have not used it, and I think it's something like 25 cents per voice message. But basically what it does is you record a message and it sends your message straight to their voicemail. And it can do it send it out in bulk as well. So you don't have to talk on the phone. And then only the motivated sellers will actually get back to you when they are ready. So this could be a real time saver, and a different, perhaps more personal way to follow up with people. So that's another option as well. And of course you can send a simple letter. So yeah, bulk tests, autoresponder like MailChimp, simple letter, or using a service that goes straight to voicemail. Now, I go into a lot more detail about automating this process in my program. But I just wanted you to know that this step can be fully automated and outsourced, and there's some great platforms that will do it all for you. So just make sure that you have a reminder in place on each lead to follow up and how you're going to follow up each month. Now, it's just a simple message that you need to send out. It's hi, we spoke a while ago about your house, and put your address in there. Is it still for sale? Regards, Deanne, or thanks, Deanne, or something. That's it. Really, really simple stuff. Now, I want to talk to you about your CRM, or client or customer relationship management system. If you're going to build a business, you need to be using a CRM, as it's so easy to get overwhelmed by the number of leads that you will start generating. And if you don't have a system in place, leads are just going to start falling through the cracks. Now, as I've already mentioned, I use Podio to manage our business. And whilst I'm not going to be talking about how I do that today, I do want to mention that you can manage every single lead through the task management system within Podio, which ensures that at any time you can look at any lead and know exactly where it is at, what needs to be done next, when it needs to be done, and who the task has been assigned to. Now, when you get an assistant, they can manage all of this for you, and it will, if a task has been assigned to you, it'll just pop up in your inbox in the morning, and it just streamlines everything, makes it all flow so well. So systems like this make everything flow and nothing gets forgotten. Now, you don't have to use Podio or an online system like this. You can use a spreadsheet, which is what I used when I first started out, or you can just have a paper system with manila folders and a filing cabinet and go along like that. I use that as well. The important thing is to have a way to manage the tasks associated with every lead. Okay, so let's have a look at the action points for this step and commit to follow up every lead. Choose 1 to 2 ways to follow up on every lead, and put a system in place to follow up every lead. And that is it. And like I say, following up is such a huge part of your business, but it can all be automated, which is brilliant. Okay, let's look at finding a buyer. And depending on which exit strategy you are going to be using, and by that I mean how are you going to be profiting from this deal, that will be either a tenant buyer or a cash buyer on a lease option. Now, in my program, as I have said before, I focus on teaching my coaching clients cash flow. So we are looking for tenant buyers. We are doing sandwich lease options. And I do this because if you are just on selling deals, so if you're just selling your lease option to a cash buyer, you can't stop. I mean, if you don't do a deal, then you don't get paid. So if you don't do a deal this month, you don't get paid this month. Whereas with a tenant buyer in place, your cash flow continues if you want to take a month or so off. And if you do no deals for a month or two, your cash flow is still coming in. So it means that once you get your monthly cash flow goal, once you hit that monthly cash flow goal, you can then look at different ways to invest, or you can take a 3-month holiday, a 6-month holiday, or you can let your wife retire, leave her job or leave your own job and concentrate on this full time. And you can do that because you know that you have a certain amount of money coming in every month. The cash flow of this system, of this strategy, gives you the security to make choices like that. So let's just run through quickly the ways you can find tenant buyers. Now, firstly, we look online. Now, if you Google rent to buy on Gumtree, you will come across a lot of wanted ads from people looking for rent to buy homes. So advertising on Gumtree is a must. Now, keep your ads simple. You are not a real estate agent, and just be aware that you will get a lot of interest from Gumtree, but many of them will be tire kickers. So make sure you have a couple of questions ready to pre-qualify them when they first get in touch. And a lot of people too will just send you a text, so your phone will start buzzing very quickly. Now, the main questions you need to be asking them are, do they have any money to get started? When are they looking to move? Because if they're not looking to move for 6 months and you've got a property that you're ready to do a deal on in a week, then that's not going to work. So there's no point approving them for this house and then finding out that there's a 5-month wait in between. So the deal will fall over or you'll get stuck paying for it. So just a couple of questions around what their income is, when they're ready to move, that type of thing. The other thing with this too is that if you don't get any interest in your property, then it means that the pricing is wrong for the area. You've got it wrong. If you haven't moved the property and it's a nice house in a nice area where people want to live, then it's not a mansion or it's not a specialist type property in a holiday area, that type of thing, then it means there's something wrong with your numbers and you need to have another look at them. So another great place, moving on, another great place is Facebook, specifically the buy, sell and trade groups. You can also do Facebook ads, but they will cost you money, but just keep them in mind. And of course, websites. Now, again, I use Investor Carrot to do website. You can set up just a website to attract rent to buy, tenant buyers for rent to buy properties. So again, you can just click on that link and that will take you to Investor Carrot. Okay, moving on to signs. Now, if a property is near you, then signs in the yard of the house work great. You will get people driving past and they will just stop and see your sign and call you from the sign. They will say, I'm sitting at the front of the house. How does this work? When can I look? They're so excited. They're sitting right there. Pointer signs up on poles, etc., on weekends also work really well because people are out and about driving around looking at the traditional real estate open houses. So they'll follow your pointer signs as well, and you've got a sign out the front yard. And I've sold a couple of properties that way. So just make sure with that you go around and take your pointer signs down later because you don't want to get in trouble with the council. Okay, so another way to find tenant buyers is to partner with other lease option investors. So make sure you keep active in lease option groups and other investor groups, because other lease option investors, they might have a tenant buyer who's all ready to go, who's already been approved, and you can work together that way. Okay, so make sure you're active and that will work fine. And finally, you can start building your own tenant buyer list. Now, you can do this through Facebook or just organically through your own business as when you have your first property. So you've got one property, you're going to have, say, 10 applicants. Well, that means that 9 will miss out. And out of that 9, maybe 3 would have qualified for that house. So now you have 3 fully qualified tenant buyers on your list waiting for the next house. And that is just great, because then you can start marketing for properties specifically for those tenant buyers, knowing that they're ready to go, which is a great place to be in. Okay, so moving right along, you've done your deal with the seller. You have a qualified tenant buyer. Now, I'm not going into how to qualify a tenant buyer as well on this training, but it involves outsourcing the process to property managers and mortgage brokers. And I want you to understand that we outsource as much as possible to experts in this business. I like to keep things simple, and by using experts, you are also protecting everyone in the transaction. So that's the seller, the tenant buyer, and yourself. So let's just say you have a qualified tenant buyer. How do you close the deal, and how do you get paid? Again, a simple process that we use to outsource to the experts. Firstly, you must always use a lawyer to do your contracts, and make sure that they are familiar with lease options. Now, if you don't, you will pay more for a lawyer to go and learn about them. They'll be reading and learning and educating themselves on how to do all this, but you will be paying for their time to do that. So find a lawyer who is doing lease options already, and it will keep your costs down. Or the other thing that they could do too is make a mistake on the contract. So always use a lawyer who knows what they are doing. Now, I don't provide copies of contracts to my coaching clients because every deal needs to go through a lawyer. And you're passing on the costs of that from your tenant buyer. So the money is not coming out of your pocket at the end of the day. The money is coming through your tenant buyer through the deal. So there's no excuse not to use a lawyer to do your contracts. The other part of it too is that you'll develop a relationship with the lawyer and lawyers that you're using, and they get to know what you're doing. They become a great member of your team, and then you can just pick up the phone and call them and say, I've got this question, can you answer it for me? And you're not going to get charged, $50, $100 for 5 minutes or whatever it is that they charge these days. So contracts, lawyers, no excuses. The other thing that I recommend you do is to find a coach or a mentor or another investor to JV with you to help you get your first deal done or your second deal done. They know which lawyers to use. They know which mortgage brokers to use. They have a network you can tap into, and they probably already have a buyer's list or will help you get your own started. Now, having someone to hold your hand through this process will make it a whole lot less stressful for you, as well as helping you do your first deal a hell of a lot quicker. Now, I just want to say one thing as well in regards to licensing, and I know that's not up there, but I just want to mention it now. If you're going to build a business with this, then I recommend absolutely that you get your real estate license. It keeps you on the right side of Fair Trading Commission and in every state and territory, and it opens up how you can make money in these deals. So, for instance, as we were talking about before, a property might come up that does not have enough in it to do a sandwich lease option. So you could simply then find a tenant buyer for that property and put them together and take a fee. And of course, that means you're acting like a real estate agent, so you need a license to cover you for that. So get a lawyer to do your contracts, work with an expert the first time, or the first couple of times you're doing a deal, and get your license if you want to do this full time. So how do you get paid? Everyone wants to know, when do they get paid? Your tenant buyer will transfer their upfront option fee to either yourself or to your lawyer's trust fund, and that just depends how comfortable they feel or how you want it all to just go through the lawyer. The contracts are signed, the money is released to you minus what goes through to the seller, and you get your upfront profit. Then, of course, you will start getting your weekly or / monthly payments as per your agreement with the tenant buyer. And they're usually monthly payments because you'll have a property manager in place to manage the collection of the rent and deal with the outgoings as well. So in that way, you're just like a normal landlord. You're getting sent your cash flow positive profit every month from your property manager. So that's how you get paid. And what if you can't find a tenant buyer? Now, the important thing is to start marketing the property as soon as you get the agreement from the seller. Now, in your offer, you'll have special conditions that give you time to do some inspections and have access to the property to market it. Use this time to find a tenant buyer. If the property doesn't move, then you've priced it too high for the market. You'll need to revisit your numbers, and look, if they still don't work, then you're going to have to revisit them with the seller as well and have a discussion around what your offer was. Maybe you need to get longer. If they won't drop their price, you might need to get longer to get your tenant buyer enough time to actually get a deposit together for the property, or you'll need to get the price reduced. But either way, remember too that you have the option to walk away if you can't make it work at the end of that time before you actually move a tenant buyer in. If you can't find a tenant buyer and you can't get everything to work, then you still have the option to walk away. Okay, let's move on to the last part, which is about tools. I just want to go through quickly what tools I use in my business. So let's start with the obvious, because we've been talking a lot about leads and following up, and to be able to do that effectively, we need to have a system to manage our leads. Our database is everything, and there will be literally thousands and thousands of dollars worth of deals sitting in your database at any one time. So you need to look after it really well. You need to invest in a CRM. Now, as I've mentioned a few times already, we are using Podio. And this is still relatively new to me. I'm still learning how it all works. And before, like I said, I was just using spreadsheets and the good old pen and paper, but I was losing track of a few leads because I'm not very good at filing things. So CRM was, the necessary move for me. Now, I really understand the importance of having this CRM in place, which is why I looked at a number of different systems, and Podio was the best one for us. It tracks all of our leads, and we have a really simple system in place to follow up on all of our leads, and it's just simply task-based. Now, there are a few different systems out there, but I really haven't found anything here in Australia that suits what we do, the type of investing that we do. But with Podio, you can build your own apps, which is why I guess I decided on Podio. I use it for my own lease option business. I use it for my coaching business, and I use it for my general administration as well. I set coaching clients up in Podio so they get used to having and using a system during the program, and then they can pick up all of their data at the end of the program and take it with them and set up their own Podio account or whatever database management system they decide to use. It all goes with them. Now, anyway, I'm still working my way through Podio and getting some actual trialing a couple of new things to make it even better. But I just love having a task-based management system and tasks that pop up in the morning and tell me what I need to do each day to keep me on track. It's all about managing those leads and making sure that none fall through the cracks, that no lead gets left behind. Okay, now phones. You're going to need a phone number that is not your personal number, because you don't want to be giving it out to thousands of sellers or buyers or whatever. They'll be calling you at any weird hour of the day or night. You can use virtual numbers. And there are quite a few different companies that you can get these virtual numbers from. I'm trialing CallRail at the moment because it can be integrated with Podio, which means I can just call direct from within Podio. So in that way, I'm trying to automate another system. But there's other companies that you can use as well. You can also use Skype. But, just Google virtual phone number and you'll have quite a few choices pop up for you. Now, the other reason you need a few phone numbers is that you're going to be doing different marketing campaigns, and you can essentially put a different phone number on each one if you wanted to, and it's an easy way to track where your leads are coming in from. You can set these numbers up to be redirected to your own phone, of course, or just set up voicemail on your virtual number. Now, I actually have a second phone that's just for marketing, so all my marketing, all my sellers will come through that particular phone number. So I just check that phone a couple of times a day, or my assistant checks that a couple of times a day. Okay, moving on to websites. Okay, websites. As I've said before, websites are nice to have, but they're not necessary, particularly when you are just starting out. Now, we have recently started using InvestorCarrot because it's got great templates for motivated sellers and rent to buy just when you're trying to set up your buyers list. And I haven't found what they've got anywhere else. But look, I also have got some free websites that I built myself. So Mortgage Rescue, which is a free WordPress site, and I built it over a week. There's options out there, so have a look around. Google WordPress, have a look at InvestorCarrot. Depends on what you want to spend or how technically savvy you are. I'm not particularly technically savvy, so InvestorCarrot suits me perfectly. I could have a website up in a couple of hours, and that suits me down to the ground. Okay, so you don't need a website when you first start out, but they definitely do bring in leads once you've got them all set up properly. And once you're up and running, they can also give you some credibility as you can send people to your website to get more information about you or your business. So you can set up an InvestorCarrot website in a few hours, like I said. So go and have a look if this is something that interests you. Now, you can also use landing pages. And when you decide to get into paid marketing using Facebook, then having a landing page will be really important so that you can capture your leads' email addresses. Now, I use ClickFunnels for this, and I've included the link to ClickFunnels, but it's also an affiliate link. So because it takes you through to where you can have a 14-day free trial with them and have a little play around. But, don't waste time playing around with this stuff unless you're seriously going to start using it, because you can waste a lot of time just looking at this sort of stuff instead of working on your business. So I don't want to overwhelm you with all the shiny stuff. I just want to show you the tools that I use in my business. And the other tools that I use are calculators. I have a simple spreadsheet calculator that I gave you the link for before. I use that. I use online calculators. I have a property investor calculator that I play with, and I also have a real estate calculator on my desk. So between those, I just use those to work out everything that I need to do for my office and everything else. So that's my calculators. And finally, I use RP Data or CoreLogic, I think they're called now. So I use this because it allows me to do research, more specific research on properties and suburbs, and to pull the quick valuations, which are more important to me to be putting these offers together quickly. So mostly I just use it when I'm doing the valuation comparison, but I also use onthehouse.com.au or the domain one as well. So it's just an extra tool for the valuation side of things. Now, as a last point, I want to say that building your team around you is really important. And by this, I mean your lawyers, your real estate agents, your mortgage brokers, your other investors, so your investing community, your coach, your team. Once you've done your first deal, you'll really see how much fun this can be, and associating with other people with the same mindset and the same goals as you is just so much fun, and I'm sure that you'll get hooked just like I did and still am. So we have come to the end of my mind map. Now, as I said throughout this presentation or training, if you want some help with all of this, then or you have some questions or just want to take advantage of the chance to talk to me or one of my team for free about your goals and just see if lease options would work for you, then click the link which is up here in a couple of places, schedule a call link. Click the link and it will take you to a page where you can choose a time that works for you, and we can sit down and have a chat together. Okay, well, thank you for sticking with me right until the end. I hope that this has been helpful and has answered all your questions around lease options. I look forward to talking with you in the future, and take care and bye for now. Thanks.